Hi, I'm Anthony Lekkas, presenter from Joy 94.9.
And I'm Taran Battye, part of the graduating class of Whitehouse Institute of Design, Melbourne.
Taran, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So it is Melbourne Fashion Week here in Melbourne.
Yes.
You are an up-and-coming designer trying to make your mark here on the scene, the fashion scene here in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how you got into fashion.
Well, it kind of all started when I was about 7 years old, and I wanted to be a part of the Dancers Stedford at primary school, but I wanted to be a part of what the girls were wearing. They were wearing these amazing angelic kind of costumes, and since I was the boy, I was wearing this basic black thing, which didn't really interest me. So I went home and created my own version of that out of an old bed sheet and some fishing line. And that kind of happened. Well, the way that happened was that I wasn't actually allowed to use a sewing needle because Mum was scared of the dangers of that and being a child and that kind of thing. So I just kind of made little holes in the fabric and just threaded the fishing line through the holes, and I made this whole extravagant outfit, and my parents were so impressed that from that point forward I was using sewing needles and then moved on to the sewing machine. And yeah, here I am now.
So you're finding a passion at such a young age. And so how old were you when you started using a sewing machine?
I was about 12 years old when I first started sewing machine, which was also at primary school. We were doing costumes for these puppets that we were all making as a school project, and I was in charge of sewing together all of the puppet costumes for that. So it was kind of daunting at the start, but yeah.
Who was teaching you along the way? Like, where were you finding your interest in sort of coming home to jump on a sewing machine to make clothes?
Well, it was kind of just all self-taught, really. Like every kind of, well, before that, like before the sewing machine and everything I made was hand-stitched. Like I made ball gowns and everything all by hand. And then when I found the sewing machine, I was kind of just borrowing Mum's sewing machine. I actually kind of used it more than Mum used it. So yeah, just all happened from there, really, just self-interest and self-taught.
And so you knew from a teenage, well, actually from 7, but when you were in your teenage years, you weren't, were other friends and people you were growing up with interested in fashion and sort of designing like you were?
Yeah, I had a friend who was semi-interested in fashion. It wasn't so much about the actual making of the clothes. He was kind of just like more interested in putting a costume together and an outfit together, so he would not so much make the clothes, but just assemble the thing, kind of like a stylist, I guess. But I was the only one out of my friendship circle that really wanted to get into construction and pattern making and the actual building together of a garment and that kind of thing.
Wow, remarkable. So what do your designs tell us about you?
Well, the way I like to say I design is that I design fashion as fashion rather than fashion as menswear and women's wear, because I don't believe that fashion should be separated for different sexes. I think you should be able to wear what you want, where you want, when you want, and I kind of live that reality every day. I don't dress for an occasion for any specific person to impress. I dress for me in whatever position that I'm in.
So then is it fair to say, is this how you dress sort of regularly? Because you look pretty flashy today. It's not just for the show, is it?
No, it's not just for the show. This is basically me if I'm going grocery shopping, if I'm going to uni, anything really. So
because I'm curious about that, designing fashion for fashion and not necessarily men's wear or women's wear. And so are you designing ultimately just for yourself and what feels right for you?
Kinda, yeah, that's what I basically base my design philosophy on and how I like to design things, because the initial process that I go through is what gives me chills when I'm thinking of an idea. If I myself get chills from a first initial idea that I have, then I know when I go through that design process and everything, the end product is at least going to shock someone or turn someone's head, no matter what.
Is part of your intention to, when you say to shock someone, is it sort of to get people's attention and to get them to be curious, to question?
I like people to question things, because I don't want to just present something that everyone else is doing. I want to make a statement on the world, whether if it's like making an old man feel uncomfortable while going grocery shopping in a sheer leather catsuit, or if I want to create like something controversial that people can question, stop, and actually think about what that is and what that is doing and why that exists. Because if they do that, then that sparks change, and change is what our society needs, I think.
So that's interesting, because I'm wondering, because you can sort of create that reaction from people in all sorts of ways, and you've decided to do it with sort of clothing and fashion and what you're wearing. What sort of change are you talking about?
Well, definitely the change in how gender is perceived with everything, like feminism and everything. I'm a feminist myself, and I think feminism is doing so many great things, but I don't see a lot of change happening for men as a part of feminism. Everything that men are associated with is still this hyper-masculine kind of thing, and anything that sways away from that it's disregarded or just looked down upon, and I want to try and change that.
Right, wow.
So-
Sounds like you're a fashion activist as well,
Yeah,
or a gender
kinda.
activist.
Yeah, definitely.
So finally, Taran, it's Melbourne Fashion Week. You're trying to sort of break into that scene. You're making your mark this spring.
Yeah.
What message do you want them to walk away with when they look at your fashion designs?
That there's more out there than just menswear and women's wear, and that fashion can be anything, really.
Brilliant. Well, Taran, thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you, Anthony.
I'm Anthony Lekkas. Thanks for watching.